So after an extremely close game up against the English, the All Blacks move on to their next international fixture up against Ireland, which is going to be an absolutely awesome game, a rematch of the Rugby World Cup quarter-final, in which was once again a last-minute thriller between these two sides. It is myself, it is Rugbyitch. We are predicting what we think Scott Robertson will be going with for this game. First of all, Tim, the game up against the English could have easily gone either way. The All Blacks bench, they actually performed. They managed to help the ABs towards the victory. Who do you think are the players that you cannot drop from this game up against the Irish?
Oof, there's a lot. There's a lot of players who I think stood out for them, particularly off the bench, like you said. I think you got to know those two props. I think Tossi and Fassi, I thought both of them made an immediate impact off the bench. Really kind of saved the All Blacks and kind of allowed them to kind of move up the field in order to kind of gain that territory and eventually get that try. So I think them two. I'd say McKenzie as well. I think he definitely was the difference maker as well, coming off that bench, getting that winning, I guess, conversion there. So, yeah, there's a lot of players that go through that stood out in this game. But, yeah, when you're going against Ireland, it's going to get much tougher. So I'm excited.
And with no Bowden Barrett, due to the head knock, no Cody Taylor, there is opportunity in this starting lineup. So I will ask you, first of all, Tim, your front row that you think Razor will be going with, who have you selected?
Yeah, so for this front row, I have made a change here, and again, I think it's probably the same change we'll both make. I have gone with Ethan de Groot at number 1, as well as Tyrell Lomax at number 3 in terms of my props. But for the hooker spots, with, of course, Cody Taylor out, I have put in a sophomore as the starting hooker for this game against Ireland. And I think it's going to be a big opportunity for him because we haven't really seen a sophomore in kind of this big of a test, really, kind of given this opportunity, because normally Cody Taylor's just kind of ready all the time, but no, this will be a big one for him, and I'm looking forward to it because look, besides his lineouts, he was all right, I'd say, throughout the game against England, but those lineouts definitely did cost New Zealand at times with possession, which hopefully he'll work on as the week goes on. But besides that, yeah, I think that's the front row that I think the All Blacks will go with.
See, it's a bit of a concern, isn't it, when you say besides his line out, when that is one of his main jobs.
Exactly.
To get that line out right. So, yeah, it will be very intriguing. Definitely with the replacement hooker, whether or not we do see George Bell or there is a mystery hooker who will be joining the All Blacks camp, which sounds a bit dodgy, but of course the position on the rugby field, and that will determine whether or not maybe we see a debut for a new All Black in the making. But for now, my front row that I believe he'll go with, I have got number 1. Now, I've got to Mighty Williams, but if Ethan de Groot is available, once again, we don't know the extent of his disciplinary issue, but if he's available, I've got him as the 1. If not, then that is where I've got to Mighty Williams. Number 2, Asafa Moa as well, and number 3, Tyrell Lomax. I think Lomax made some really good decisions up against the English. Didn't really get too much of a chance outside of the scrums to run the ball and kind of do the normal thing that we would see from Lomax, but like I said, made some good choices in terms of when to pass that ball, when to take contact, so hopefully has a good game here up against the Irish as well. But we move on to the locking duo. Now, for the last game, we did see Scott Barrett at number 4, Tupavai as the number 5. Now, Barrett had overall a pretty solid game up against the English, whereas Tupavai, unfortunately, he did show a bit of rust, not playing since the Rugby Championship, having a couple shaky moments, and actually going off near halftime with an injury. So I wonder whether or not he's even going to be available for this game. But for my combination, I've got number 4, Scott Barrett, and number 5, Patrick Tuipulotu. I feel like his composure off the bench, something that really helped the All Blacks in the right direction. Captain well up against the Japanese, so I would like to see him. I know that they've already got enough vice-captains, but I do think with the absence of Cody Taylor, someone who would fill that vice-captain role perfectly, in fact, I think he'd fill that captaincy role perfectly. Patrick Tuipulotu, stick him in there, the lineouts are strong, his turnover game and the breakdown is solid as well, and I think he could be a real game-changer here up against the Irish.
Yeah, no, couldn't agree more with everything you said there. I've gone with the exact same combo as you in terms of Scott Barrett at number 4 and Patrick Tuipulotu at number 5. I think these two, I mean, like you said, Barrett had a solid game. Nothing wrong with his game, I think, overall. It's kind of good, actually, in a way where, because I didn't see much of him, there was nothing that I can kind of say that like he did anything bad or anything that was outstanding. So, honestly, he just had a very solid game. So, I think Scott had a good game in that, and we'll be looking to kind of keep the position for the Ireland one. Yeah, Tuipulotu, man, he he was really good off the bench for the All Blacks and definitely a difference maker. And yeah, just like you said, Tupou, like again, it's probably rust, but at the same time, just there was some decisions where, particularly in the lineouts, because I know that him and Barrett's obviously making some calls, just it didn't kind of work out into their favor when it came towards those set pieces. So yeah, I feel a lot, I guess, more comfortable, let's just say, with Tuipulotu in there in terms of those set pieces, because again, he just adds that strength, but also he's just a better ball carrier than Tupou anyway. So I also like the way he kind of just gains meters. That's kind of what he's known for, actually. So yeah, I think he'll definitely be in this side and definitely deserves it. I was kind of saying he should be in the starting lineup actually for the England game, and he proved me right there. So yeah, hopefully he gets to start in this game.
And I know some people will mention that last-minute knock-on after George Ford did miss that penalty, but overall, like in terms of what he did up till that moment, like he had some really strong moments. And yeah, look forward to seeing him in the match against the Irish. Now moving on to the loose forward trio. Now this is once again a talking point, Tim. We talk about it every single week, and you're in that scenario. One individual out of these three is playing some outstanding rugby, having over 100 running meters, making the most tackles for the All Blacks. What are the other two doing? Like, yes, they had a couple good moments, don't get me wrong, but is there still something not right about this All Blacks loose forward trio? Is there an obvious change that should be made that they just aren't willing to do?
You know, it's actually crazy, and I think this is actually a first ever. I think ever that I've now actually thought of this. I think it's the first time ever that Ari Sevilla was not, I think out of the three, he was probably third on the list in terms of how well they played on the day. And by the way, this is nothing against Artis Sevilla. I think he's an awesome player, and he puts you pretty much a 9 or a 10 out of 10 every single game he does. But I think this one, honestly, Wallace Titi was up there for man of the match, and Sam Cane I actually thought was really good on the day in terms of kind of the experience. He wanted key key turnover in the breakdown. So I think he actually did really well actually on the day, Sam Cane. So yeah, my question is really towards Artis Sevilla actually in terms of what he can do. But again, he was, if we go back towards that Ireland game back in the World Cup, he was probably man of the match on that day actually. So if he just puts that performance again, then he'll kind of just show once again why he's one of the world's best. So yeah, it's an interesting one. But honestly, I think it's one of the first times ever where I'm actually okay with the three they actually went with. I'm not sure about you, but I mean, I think that's what they probably should go with, actually, I think, for this. Of course, on the bench, there's Finau, there's Lakai, and there's Christian Willie are kind of the available, I guess, loose forwards there. But honestly, I think those three played solid enough. And you want Artis Sevilla on your side, and Sam Cane I thought was really good. Wallace Hiti was outstanding. I mean, that the one play that he had, which I thought was just unbelievable, was when he caught the ball inside his own kind of 22 and kind of just sprinted all the way towards the halfway line and felt, just out that pass towards Tupou. Not the best kind of pass, but at pace, of course, it was like the right idea, but just wasn't able to hold on to it. But it's still a great play there by Wallace Atiti. So, yeah, I honestly don't think they have to make any changes there. I was really impressed by, all of them there.
And the thing is, some people forget as well, Wallace Atiti, the assist for Mark Talia's first try, lured in both English defenders, flicked it out the back door, straight into Talia's hand, who, of course, had a very strong game out on the wing as well. I believe they will go with the same loose forward trio. Wallace Satiti, number 6, Sam Cane, 7, number 8, Ardie Savia. Eventually, I think Satiti's going to take that number 8 jersey. And it's just a matter of time. I think so, because I honestly think if Razor actually backed Sama Penifino, and don't get me wrong, like Sama Penifino can be up and down big time, but based off his performance up against Japan, you would think he would have had the decency to give him more than 4 minutes here up against the English when you're really up against it. And like you said, when Savia is not quite performing, is that not an easy switch that they could have just, made a little bit of a reshuffle? Sam Cane as the number 7. Next year, you haven't got him. Is it time to give one young guy a chance up against the top side just to get them ready for test match level? There are a lot of questions, and of course Razor's job is on the line in some regards, so he doesn't want to make that big switch that could cost them a contest. But I do think at some stage we could see, or at least I would like to see, maybe the inclusion of Sam Cane coming off the bench later on in a game rather than starting it. Give someone that start just to, mix it up a little bit.
Is that who you're thinking?
No, not even. I think that the chance, I know it's something that we've heard many times, but I think Sama Penifino 6, Savia number 7, Satiti number 8 could be a very handy combo for the ABs. Sam Cane off the bench, but I don't think they'll do it. That's the thing.
I don't think
it's
so
one of
as
those
well.
ones
That's what
they can't afford to in this scenario. So I do think they'll go the same, but I do also think that there is a chance that in that first game up against the English, it just seemed to be, other than Satiti, they lacked physicality up against England, which was exactly what England brought to them in the first 2 games in that loose forward trio.
Was good.
He was solid. Yeah. Ben Earl, even though he didn't really have the same huge game, he was still putting in the big hits. And then you got the Curry brothers, who they just like smashing people.
Yeah, they were great. They were great. I think with the loose forward trio, like you just can't break up that 3 at the moment. And again, like you said beforehand, this will be kind of Kane's last run with the All Blacks anyway, because after this kind of autumn nations, he'll no longer be in the All Blacks kind of frame, unless there's obviously a really big issue around, I guess, like cover there, but also if they change that rule, of course, then he'll be available. But no, I think in the long term, that's where I honestly think Wallace Atiti is a better 6 now at 8. Like it's kind of crazy to say that, but of course you have to think back towards Super Rugby, and he's the number 8 for them. So it's a bit of a weird one. But again, he could kind of, maybe what they do is, going off these performances, I know I'm just thinking ahead here for Super Rugby, but maybe the Chiefs look at this and they're like, you know what, maybe we play Satiti more at 6 now, and we shift, I don't know, Jacobson towards the 8s, who can cover there easily. So it's just one of those where I don't know how they'll do it, but I'd also like, I mean, again, this is where, no, I can't say it now. I was going to say someone's name here, but it's one of those where there's definitely players who I believe could make it into the side, who...
Well, now you got to tell us his name. Who's the name?
Okay, I'll just say his name. I honestly think the loose forward trio should be Satiti at 6. And I'm saying this, by the way, after Kane leaves. Satiti at 6, Sevilla at the 7, and then the Blues number 8, who I'm not going to name, but I think people know who it is. So the Blues number 8 should be probably.
Do you think by then he would have gone to Fiji or England?
No. I think that is definitely, like, I'm just saying this as like what the All Blacks have in terms of their best players. That is the best loose forward trio that I can think of. But in terms of what I believe Razor will go with, I think he'll probably do Satiti, Papali, and Sevilla. I think that's what he'll probably go with. But yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one.
It certainly is. But yeah, I think that these 3 are pretty cemented for this Northern Hemisphere tour, aren't they? With the way they're currently playing. Moving on to the 9-10 combination, something that is definitely not cemented now that we've seen Beauden Barrett pick up that head knock, which means we will have at least one change. So for myself, I have gone number 9, Cam Roigard, number 10, Damian McKenzie. Now, that is a combination that they went with up against the Japanese, and it did find some success. I have to say, Ratama, unfortunately, in this game, he didn't quite have that level that a lot of people expected from him. He had a really good first kick towards the touchline, but then from there, it did seem to kind of go downhill. He was under pressure, but once again, we knew the rush defence of England were going to cause that. Beauden Barrett, he felt that pressure too, going for a lot of chips in behind that. Unfortunately, I think only one of them actually did pay off out of the maybe 10 that were attempted. So that's a tactic I don't think we'll see them use up against the Irish, but sometimes just sinking the slipper into it, get them downfield, might have been the better way of going about it. Plus, all of the All Blacks' tries were scored from the running game, from passing the ball.
Yeah, exactly.
Including a nice inside ball from Beauden Barrett to Will Jordan. So, yeah, my combination, Roigard and McKenzie. McKenzie coming in clutch in the final moments. Say what you want about him as a player, whether you think he should be a 10 or not. That was the kick that won the All Blacks the game. And also, he did pass it to Jordan, who then went to Talia, who finished the job in the corner like an absolute boss. But for yourself, Tim, have you got the same combination?
I do. I think Roigard definitely has to be in there. I think he kind of just proved it again why I still think the number 1 in terms of that position for the ABs. I just think he is just a level above, I think, any scrum half they have. And by the way, this is not a shot to any of the AB scrum halves, because they're all actually very, very good. Like, I think Ratsma, you got what? Who else? Who else is in the side? You have
Paradar.
Almost forgot him, but Paradar there. You even have, like, who's not even available from this, not in this team. But you have like Christie, you have Noah Holtman, you have Fakatava. I also like as well. So they have a lot of good choices there. But honestly, I think Roigard is just the chair on the top there. So it's good to have a player like him in your side. And then, yeah, with the 10, Mackenzie, man, he really did win the game for them. He really kind of impacted the game off the bench. And again, we're not going to see that often, I think. Honestly, he has to start. I think Mackenzie is just one of those players where over time, you want to build your team. I would rather build my team around Mackenzie than Beauden Barrett. And by the way, I'm only saying this from an age standpoint as well, because Beauden Barrett is one of the world's best players when he wants to be. But it's also one of those where when you need someone, I'd rather have a clutch player like Beauden off the bench, because I've seen it more often than not than Mackenzie. That's kind of the way I think about it. And Mackenzie, look, he did the reverse on this day. That's also what he was meant to do. But man, Mackenzie, man, he's just so good. He's such a good player, and I'm excited to see what he does against Ireland, because that will be probably the biggest test he's had that I can think of in terms of his career. But no, that is my 9-10 combination.
Any chance of a wild card here? And we see Harry Plummer, since he's added back into the squad, start at number 10.
You never know. I mean, he did get a 75-meter try there against the intercept try against Munster. So he has at least a feel of how to score tries against in Ireland. But I don't know if they'll do that. I mean, honestly, I've mentioned this before and how they can use Harry Plummer, but I think he can be used more as a 12 rather than a 10, because I think his body type is also built for that as well. So I'd rather have him in that position. But again, there's also Perifetta, who we can't forget about. There's Ruben Love, if you need to, you can fill out that 10 position as well. So they have a lot of options what they can do. But I think for now, Borgo to Mackenzie is the right one.
Okay, so you'd rather play Plummer as a 12. Moving on to the centre combination.
Yeah.
Geordie Barrett as the number 12. Didn't quite have his best game up against the English. Rico Ioane on his outside at 13 for that game. For yourself, Tim, you gone with the All Blues combo in the midfield?
No, I'm not. I would love to put Plummer and Rico in there. That would be something to watch for. But no, I have gone with Geordie Barrett to number 12 and Rico at number 13. I just think, one, it's going to be exciting to see how Geordie Barrett does, because, of course, he is joining Leinster after kind of this automation. So he'll be going against some of his, I guess, future teammates, this at least. Mm-hmm. And yeah, look, I'm hoping that he has kind of a good game. With Rico, again, he had a bit of a nothing against him really, but I think his game was kind of impacted by kind of what happened to him early on with his hand. Like he'd taken off, then kind of killed his momentum in the game and taken on. He was flashy, but he didn't do anything amazing that I was like, okay, wow, he did an amazing game. So yeah, he had a good enough game there. But yeah, I don't know if they'll do any changes. I mean, I thought Anton Brown was solid off the bench at least. At least he added some cover there in terms of that 12 and 13, as he did play both on the day, but I don't think they'll make any changes in those centre spots.
See, Leonard Brown, for me, he had some rough moments in there as well. You know, there were a few drop balls in that yellow card near the end. I feel like it's actually a tricky one at the moment for that midfield combo, because going into this game, I don't think anyone's looked absolutely brilliant from the last game, which brings a little bit of adversity, brings that opportunity to right those wrongs for these guys, and that seems to be a mentality that Razor has. If you've gone out there and you've ballsed it up the game before, go out there and show us what you should have done. So I think you'll go with the same combo of Geordie Barrett and Rico Ioane. That is, of course, dependent on Ioane's condition of his finger or his hand or wherever got sliced and diced out there on the field up against the English. But moving on to the back three. Now, I have got number 11, Caleb Clark, although I do think that this was possibly, not to be too critical, but I think this is probably his worst game that he's played in 2024. He just didn't really get involved, unfortunately, and that was a little bit down to the way that the back line was working. Beauden Barrett tried that cross kick early, and it found Clark, but then the ball knocked free. I think that Clark is the most dangerous when he's getting consistent ball in hand from his back line, and we just didn't see that. We saw Barrett hitting it up instead, which at times worked, but at other times just seemed to kill the momentum of the back line. Ioane, in that second half, when Barrett started passing, Ioane decided, well, I'm going to play the role of not passing now. And then Caleb Clark's just sitting there going, boys, do I get involved in this game? He's not quite like Talia. He wasn't going into those breakdowns trying to find work. He was just patiently waiting, hoping that he'd get himself a turn. So I've given him another chance out there on the left. Number 14, Mark Talia. When they finally played him in the position that he's played all throughout the year for Super Rugby, he gets himself the double, a brilliant finish for that third try of the contest, being able to somehow make his way over the try line. We talk about how slippery he can be in that wide channel, and he proved it yet again there. Number 15, Will Jordan. Once again, probably not his best performance in an All Blacks jersey. Still managed to find himself going over the try line. I do think he was set up a little bit, though, in some regards. Like the fact that he was considered the main guy to chase Beauden Barrett's chip kicks.
Yeah.
Then he'd get left in no man's land. England would counter-attack and Jordan wasn't back to cover because he had to chase that little Barrett chip. So I think without those chips in behind, Jordan, his positioning will be a lot better up against the Irish. Because I just don't see Mackenzie attempting 10 in a game like we saw from Beauden Barrett.
Yeah, no, I agree with what you said there. I mean, like, yeah, look, in the number 11, you got to go Caleb Clark. Like, he just wasn't involved in the game. It's nothing like he actually didn't have it wasn't like where he didn't have a bad game. It's just more that they didn't kind of put the ball through him in enough times to kind of maybe make a judgment really off him. Like, the only play he actually had that was amazing actually was the disallowed try that he had where he kind of went through on the left-hand side and found that offload towards Beauden Barrett who scored the try. But of course, he was taken back for the right reasons, as I think it was Caleb Clark who actually went for the tackle but put his hand down. So it's one of those where it's the right call in the day. So it was one of those where he couldn't do really much, I guess, in that game. Again, all the ball really went towards the right-hand side, towards Talea, who was outstanding on the day and kind of just proved once again why he is probably the most reliable finisher when it comes to like just scoring tries. And just that second try, I was like, as soon as I saw it, well, the first try when Wallace TT made that amazing offload, I knew right off the back Talea was scoring because of how good the offload was, but also just the space Talea had. But that second one, he had more to deal with that second try. And my gosh, he's just so good. He's just so good. And I honestly don't think there's a lot of players in the world that can do what Talea did in that position, like where you stay in touch, but also be able to spin around and like still score. Like it was just. I was like, wow, that's something. So, yeah, he definitely deserves to be number 14 for this game. It's going to be interesting to see what they do because, again, with the likes of Beauden Barrett not available, there is also the opportunity, if they wanted to, you could put Will Jordan at the 14 and then maybe take, I don't know, you could take Caleb Clark out and put Talea at the 11 if you needed to, and then put, I don't know, you could put like Parafeta or like Ruben Love in that position if you want some cover there. But I don't think they'll do that. I don't think that's the right thing really to do for this game, particularly against Ireland. So I think Caleb Clark number 11, Talea 14, and of course Will Jordan at number 15 is who I'm going with. I think Jordan, had a solid game actually. I think in the opening half, I think he was very good. Second half, it kind of died down a bit in terms of kind of the momentum he had, but still, I think he was a very solid player on the day. Made the right, I guess, choices, to say the least. There were some moments where, of course, you could have made a better decision, but I think at the end of the day, he was still very solid. And yeah, I want to see more of Jordan at the 15 spot. It's kind of what I've always been asking for. So the more and more opportunity he has, he's going to get better and better. So I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, like Mackenzie Jordan, I just want to see the combination more often. So that's really the thing I'm looking at most, I guess, for this game against Ireland.
Yeah, and it is one we haven't really seen a huge amount of. Most of the time, it's ended up just kind of with Jordan out on the wing, and then maybe for the final moments we see him transfer to 15. I think the only time that we saw it for a whole game was actually up against the Australians, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
We got to see that 10 and 15 combo, but moving on to the bench, this is where we will have a lot of changes due to, like we mentioned, those injuries and whatnot. In your front row replacements, who is your hooker to replace a Safwa Moore from the bench? Of course, with no Cody Taylor, it will not be him.
Yeah, look, I think you have to go George Bell here just because he is the third string hooker that the All Blacks have selected here. But there is also a case, if they wanted to, they could choose someone from the All Blacks XV side, who's also, of course, in Europe, and they could choose a player off them, which they'll probably will do as the third string. But it could be where they maybe be like, you know what? We're going to go with this guy, actually, because he's actually played a game more recently in the likes of Brody McAllister, or you could go with Slater there, or even Kurt Eklund. So there's some choices there, but I think for now, I'm going to stick with George Bell, because I think, if he's in this squad already, I think he deserves at least an opportunity. So he's my, I guess, hooker off the bench. In terms of the props, this is where I have stuck to my word and gone with Albertine Fassi as well as Tossi off the bench. I think those two were really, really good, exceptional, really, just off the bench, and kind of the impact they made and kind of how they kind of changed the tide and how the All Blacks kind of played in that second half. So I think those two definitely have to be in because they definitely impacted that kind of set piece in the scrum. So really enjoyed kind of watching them two in that position. So that's my, I guess, front row off the bench.
And mine is identical. Bell, Tuanga Fassi, and also Tossi. Yeah, that Tuangafasi and Tossi combo is one that, once again, we haven't seen a huge amount of. They have partnered to Mighty Williams with Basilio Tossi, or they have gone with Tuangafasi and Fletcher Null. So maybe they've found themselves a bit of a hidden gem combination with those two, perhaps. And maybe it's one that we'll see a little bit more throughout November. Moving on to number 19. This is where I've got Josh Lord. But if Tupavai is available, I don't panic.
Wow. Okay.
If Tupavai is available, I would have him. I'm just not sure of the extent of his injury at this stage. So I've gone with him as the technicality, but if Vai is available, I am going with Tupavai. I should clarify. Okay. It's just Lord if Vai is out with the injury. Number 20, this is where I've gone with Samapeni Finau as that 20, but I want to see more than 4 minutes, because if you're only going to give him 4 minutes,
exactly,
I feel like you might as well go Peter Lakai and give him 20 minutes for Sam Cane in the last quarter of this game. I feel like that would be the better way of doing it, but we can't guarantee that they wouldn't also give Lakai only a couple minutes near the end as well.
Exactly. Yeah, so for me off the bench, this is where I've gone with, well, I did have Tupavai here off the bench, and again, it's like in your case, if he is available, I'm going to put him there. But if he's not available, I actually would go with Sam Derry here, because again, I would like to see kind of him get some minutes as well. So that's kind of what I have in that position. For the other player then, this is where I have also gone with Samapeni Finau, for the reasons like you said, but also just because I'd like to see Finau play at the 6, and then you shift Satiti at the 8, and then put Sevilla at the 7 if need be. That's another way I'd like to see it happen. But again, like you said, we just need to see more minutes from Finau, and I expect him to have more minutes, particularly into Ireland, because that loose 4 trio is going to be really impactful for them. So I'd expect a lot of fresh you need some fresh kind of blood in there, and I think Finau will definitely deliver off the bench.
And see, I probably should have gone with Sam Derry. I just kind of went chief for chief, but there is a chance that instead maybe Derry could get that chance, because I guess then you could have a Blues combination near the end if Barrett goes off. The trickiest part is taking one of those two from the starting lineup out, isn't it? So is there even a chance that we could see Finau as the number 19 and then Peter Lakai number 20? Get a couple loose forwards for the later stages of the game, perhaps, if Barrett and Tuipulotu.
Or you could have Barrett shift towards the 6, and you bring in one of the locks in Derry or Tupavai. So like you could maybe have more locks in that, because again, they are going to be pretty difficult to deal with, with the likes of Tag Byrne there and Ryan, as well as McCarthy. So that could be something which maybe they want to challenge them from a lineouts standpoint, which actually would make more sense in this game. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
So plenty of options for the All Blacks with the numbers that they have got available. 3 replacement backs, though. This is, I believe, honestly, the 3 most tricky positions in the team. And I know that that's weird to say, but with the fact that they've brought in Ruben Love and they've brought in Harry Plummer, you would think that they wouldn't bring them in unless they're going to use them. But then at the same time, we have seen it before. Players come in as injury cover and don't really get many minutes. Tim, for yourself, who are your replacement backs?
Yeah, so I have gone with Cortes Latua as my replacement scrum half. I think that's an easy decision, I think. The 22 is a difficult one, because I originally did have Perfetta in here, but the more I think about it, I kind of want to choose Harry Plummer. I just think he can cover that 12, he can cover that 10, and if need be, he can do a 15. So what? I'm gonna put him in. I'm gonna put Harry Plummer in. I'm gonna put him in. I don't know if that'll pay off or not, but I'd like to see him included in this game, and it would be actually amazing to see him going into Ireland. So I'll go Harry Plummer there, the 22. And that kind of does impact my decision here, because I originally did also have Antonio Brown here. But again, I don't need a player like him if I have Plummer in there, because it kind of, again, can cover the 12. So I may just go with, it's kind of crazy. I may just go with Ruben Love here. It's like, let's go with another player here. But I don't know if that's the right call again. I think I still go with Antonio Brown. I'll go with Antonio Brown there.
Alrighty. So number 21 for myself, I have gone with TJ Perenara. Now,
he's done it.
This is what I think Razor will be going with. And the thing is, if he's not in the team, who's leading the haka? That's the big question. It was Cody Taylor. He is injured. So, someone's got to lead it. So I went with TJ as the number 21. Plus, I think that they'll look for the experience off the bench, I think, to try and close out this game up against the Irish, even though it has been recently anyway that TJ, when he makes his way on, the play kind of slows down a little bit, but I think the All Blacks will be relying on getting a good start in this game, seeing as Ireland, this will be their first game of the international window. So TJ is the 21. Number 22 for what I think Razor will be going with. Notice how I'm reiterating that fact. David Havili as the number 22. I think that he will consider Havili as worst comes to worst. He has tried him at 10 for the Crusaders. He actually said that he wanted to see him as the 10, which is what the Crusaders obliged to.
Did that work out?
But how's Havili in the squad
but
in the
he'll
first
still choose
place,
him. He'll still choose him, yeah.
He'll go, all right, maybe. He'll catch the ball once. So he is the 12 and the 10 cover for this AB side. And then number 23, this is where I think he'll go Sever Reese. Just because he's got that cover in the midfield. But, like, the situation should be, if you're bringing in the players, like I've said, but then what does that mean for Perafeta? You know, if you're bringing in two guys who aren't necessarily in the squad and you're bringing both of them back in, well, at least Ruben Love is. He got taken out and then brought back in. So should Perafeta be getting minutes for the All Blacks XV in that case? Should he be the straight swap for Ruben Love so that he gets some minutes under his belt, just in case he's needed for France and Italy?
You could do.
Hard to say. It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because they have got that freedom of bringing in players now from the XV. Because, you know, some of those guys really stepped up. If you're looking at Quintupaya up against the Munster side, if you're looking at AJ Lamb, like, I would take either of them in the midfield combo at the moment. And
I agree. I agree with that, by the way. I really do. Like, both of them actually are, like, very solid. I think both of them honestly would do a job at 12 really good, actually. And both of them would be great with someone at number 13 with Reiko, you know? So just, I'd love to see that. I'd love to see that happen. But again, they're not going to break up the Geordie Reiko combination. That is a love duo for Razor. But
you could have Love at 15 as well. So really,
there you go.
You could say, eh? We make jokes sometimes, and sometimes they're not good. But nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen,
make sure to like the video, guys.
I don't think they will after that, but that's all right. If you did enjoy, be sure to hit that like button. Be sure to check out Rugbyitch's YouTube channel as well. His link will be in the pinned comment as well as the description. And also let us know who you think Razor will be going with. Now, I will mention I will be putting out my All Blacks XV a little bit closer to the kickoff. And I have quite a few changes compared to what I've gone with here. And that does involve the likes of a Harry Plummer and a Ruben Love getting somewhere amongst that 23. But overall, it's tricky to get in the mind of Razor. We're learning that once again. He'll be very thankful, though, that they won that game up against the English because it easily could have gone either way. But they held on. The bench got the job done. And that is what they still want to find, a full 80-minute performance. Perhaps it could be at the Aviva that they are able to do so. But thank you all very much for tuning in, and we will see you all for the next one.